Hi, everyone. I wanted to share a story that I think will be helpful, or was at least helpful for me, given the current climate and the polarity that has permeated the world, especially now. The war has been something that's bothering, I think, a lot of us. There's so many strong emotions. And I found myself feeling so burdened by witnessing so much of this suffering and feeling like there wasn't enough I could do to help minimize this. I also felt defeat that we could be living in a world where this much violence caused by humans still happens every day. And as I was feeling this way for weeks and weeks and weeks, I was sent a very special message, and I'm going to share that story with you. I had been thinking about, like I said, all of this suffering, and decided to one day just take a break and check off some boxes from my to-do list. And so I began grading my midterm exams that I had been putting off, and as I'm doing this, I hear a loud thud, and I turn to look at my balcony, as you can see behind me, the window, and through the window, I see a little bird on my balcony now, wings spread, eyes still open and blinking slowly, and breathing hastened. And I think to myself, oh my God, what do I do with this bird? The bird was clearly injured. And of course, as we do with the internet and abundance of information at our fingertips, I began Googling what to do with injured bird. And the first thing that came up was, oh, don't mess with my wildlife. You should let it be. You never know what they may have or what diseases they carry. It's not safe. So I look back towards the balcony and I look at this bird, and the bird is now eyes closed, still breathing, and actively dying in front of me. And I obviously was not satisfied with this first answer. I obviously didn't want to get hurt in the process of trying to help this bird. And at the same time, I knew I had to. And it would not have felt right if I didn't follow my intuition on that. So I went with it. I followed my gut and kept scrolling down the Google page. And the next suggested response was to call a wildlife bird rescue within the area. So I Googled wildlife bird rescue, and Manhattan, being as awesome as it is, had one on the Upper West Side. And so I give this place a call, the Wild Bird Fund, and they have this automated message telling me you have to bring the bird in. We don't do bird pickups for injured birds. So I think to myself, okay, guess we're going to bring this bird in. I then scroll further down and see what to do in terms of getting a bird that's injured from one location to another. And, as recommended, they said put on gloves, find a little box. So I scrambled to my bathroom, empty out a trash bag box, and put on blue latex gloves, walk out to my balcony, and little bird, still breathing, nudge it into this open box with one finger, musters the strength to stand up on one leg, and kind of hobbles and hops into this box. And I turn the box upside, I look inside, and the bird's eyes are open, looking right at me. And that was a moment that words would do injustice to. This bird looked at me right in the eye as though to say thank you. And at that moment, I felt a sort of connection to life that you don't feel every single day. And I called an Uber to get to this bird fun. And as I get into the Uber, I warn my Uber driver, look, I have a bird in this box just in case it miraculously heals itself and starts flying around the Uber and bursts out of this box. I wanted to make him aware. And my Uber driver says to me, there are no such things as coincidences in this life. That bird is trying to send you a message. And I think to myself, wow, that's funny that this person who I've never met is saying this to me. I was like, yeah, you're right. I do believe in that. There are no such things as coincidences. And I'm sure there's something to be learned from this. And then he says, we are all spirits within bodies. And we reached my destination. I thanked him, get out of the Uber. And The next week, I spent reflecting on these words, which I'll get to. As I get to this wild bird fund, there's a line of a couple of people, which was quite surprising for a Saturday morning. And this lady comes out, gives me an intake form to fill out, asks what I brought in, and I told her it's this little bird. And she rushes the bird to the back, gives me this form to fill out, kind of like a patient intake form about how I found the bird, what had happened. I described the incident, and she came back out, and she told me to check back in about a week, told me the bird was still alive. And in a week, they could let us know what they did for the bird and how the bird was doing. And I subway back home. The rest of that week, I spent just thinking about the bird and what the message could be, as my Uber driver had said to me, and the meaning behind it all. And as the week passed, I continued to reflect on this and then sent an email to check in on my bird friend. And this is the response that I got. Dear Deepa, thank you for following up, and apologies for the delay in response. I'm pleased to tell you that the Swainson's Thrush you brought to us recovered and was released. We treated him for 3 days with pain medication and rest, and when he was strong enough, we took him to a safe place in the park and sent him on his way. Thank you for bringing him to us. He was in great need of help and may not have survived without your compassion. Sincerely, the Wild Bird Fund, Animal Care Team. Now, as I read this response, I felt such a wave of relief that this bird survived, and such happiness that I was able to be a part of that. And the timing of it all is what helped me understand the meaning of this moment. In times where we feel we're not doing enough, the suffering is unbearable, and we're helpless to the human condition, you will find that there are always going to be opportunities that make a difference. It may feel small, it may seem little, but when suffering is right in front of you and you can do something to help minimize that suffering, don't miss that opportunity. Do something.